All right, hey guys, I want to come on and just talk about something. So you guys know this is not a carnivore channel, all right, or a ketovore channel, because that's pretty much what I do, like keto carnivore. It's That's not what this channel is about, but I do share my journey from time to time because, hey, if it helps somebody else, if it sheds a little bit of insight, and just kind of helps people, put things together and just share my own experience to show people how much I've been through and the healing that I've gone through, you know, it's all I'm here to do is to just share. I'm not here to preach anything to anyone. And those of you that watch my channel know that. Okay, I'm not here to like preach anything. I'm just here to share information, share other perspectives from the mainstream. And there's a lot of alternative perspectives out there too that I don't align with at all. I totally believe that they are the controlled opposition narrative, right? It's like you distrust this group, so they come out and they say things that swing the pendulum, and people jump into that pit because they don't like this group, because they know that they're not telling the whole truth, and they know that they're deceptive, so they end up jumping into this pit. But this one is actually controlling and manipulating you as well. They're just telling you things that you want to hear. They might be giving you half truths, and then they are filling you with a bunch of gobbledygook. All right, so there's a real problem. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, and I'm not saying that I have the whole truth and nothing but the truth. I'm just sharing my own perspective because I ask a lot of questions. I do a lot of digging. And when something doesn't quite feel right, I will go down rabbit holes until, my fingers are bleeding from typing so much. Although I do talk to text mostly these days. Back in the day, I had to type it into the computer, or at least I did. I never had any of those like gadgets to like do the talking thing. But now I usually talk to text. But I will go down some rabbit holes when things don't make sense to me, and I will keep digging until something just clicks. Like, it's like, okay, this makes sense. Now, it's not that I always know what makes sense, but there's just some things that no matter how hard I try to make it work, it doesn't fit me. It's like trying to put a puzzle piece, the wrong puzzle piece, into a shape that just, it's not working. And the dots aren't connecting, and I need the dots to connect in order for me to be like, oh, okay, because nature definitely has a reason for the things that nature does. And when things start falling out of that, or the reasons they tell you don't match up with like the physiology from the greater perspective, they're just giving you like a bullet. They're giving you like a bullet of what it does. Like, this does this, but they don't actually go into the whole ramifications of the physiology and what is actually really going on. They're just giving you one little highlight reel. Okay, and that's what a lot of people are doing. Lots of people are doing it, especially in the controlled narrative side. And yeah, they do it all the time over here because that's just what they do. They gaslight. They give you the tiniest bit of truth, but then they give you a whole bunch of lies. You have literally oncologists out there saying that what you eat doesn't affect cancer. I mean, no. This is the world we live in, right? They give you absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And over here, they're going to give you a controlled opposition narrative that gets people to think that, oh, well, they're telling the truth, but they're not telling the whole truth either. So you have to really become your own detective. So I just like to share. I like to share what I learned, what I experienced myself personally. And this goes into some keto stuff. All right. And I just want to talk about my own healing experiences with a ketogenic diet. So I have been on a carnivore diet for almost 10 years now. Now, am I 100% rigid every moment of every day? No, I'm not. Okay. I'm a human. And the reality is that I tend to undereat, especially as I've gotten older. So for years, so I was diagnosed at 15 with a damaged esophagus and sphincter. I was told that I would need a replacement, okay? I also have a million other things that I was diagnosed with. And that was when I said, I'm never going back to the doctors because they only give me bad news. And I just walked away. And I was 18 years old, and that's it. I have not been back since. I think I did go once when I was 19 because I was having some severe problems with something. I did. And again, I just wasn't happy with that experience. And so I never went back. I just never went back. And I'm 57 now and I'm still alive. Go figure. They had me on so many medications. They had me twisted up like a pretzel. And I was like, I can't live like this. I need to free myself. I just need to free myself. If I die, I die. If I get to the point where I literally am dying, then I'll have to make some decisions. But I'm like, I just can't keep getting all of this bad news. So I jumped ship. And I've been on a quest for healing that whole time. So ever since I was about 19, 20 years old, I have been on a quest to try to heal myself. And I've taken a lot of pretty rough rides. I've gone down some very, very bumpy roads. I've gone down some treacherous roads, actually, that didn't actually lead to healing. It led to the opposite. But I believed I was doing the right thing. Again, it's controlled opposition. It is a controlled narrative that is very, very false. But I fell for it because I was buying into the emotional appeal. I was buying into the whole narratives that at the time, and of course my frontal lobe wasn't fully developed, appealed to me. And of course I regret it deeply now. So that was that. And then it was when my daughter was about 5, my mother brought me the Weston Price book and I read it. And it was the Sally Fallon ancestral cookbook. And it has all that information in the sidebars. And I was a little bit resistant to it at first. My mother just thought it was a recipe book. She didn't even look at it. She knew I loved to cook and it was a recipe book. So she gives it to me. And she said, "Oh, this has a lot of great recipes in it. I think you might like it." And I was like, okay, great. My mother was like that though. My mother loved to buy me stuff. My mother was always buying me stuff, not trying to like persuade me or anything, but just always getting me stuff. Although when my daughter was in the Montessori, my mother was a public school teacher for years. And then she was like Title I doing that kind of thing. But my mother was kind of big into that. So she always thought my daughter was like missing out on like a proper education and, you know, whatever. And that used to annoy me. And then she was homeschooled for a while, community schooled, unschooled, homeschooled, that bag for a period of time before she went back to school totally on her own. It was her own decision. It had nothing to do with me. We told her, if you want to go, you're going to a trade school, because you're absolutely not going to a school where you're just going to have to memorize like a monkey, you know, for 6 hours a day. Not happening. So you can go learn a skill. So she did. She went to a trade school. She learned a skill. And I had my son at that time. My son has never gone to school, but he's been in multiple programs, and he's been in programs that kind of mimic school a little bit. You know, you're getting a lot of academics, a lot of, you know, the subjects that you would be getting in school, but they're taught in a way that is a lot more expansive. So it was actually really cool. And I really liked it. And I really liked his teachers. I'm not going to lie. Like, I feel like if all schools were like this, I think the world would be a different place, to be honest, because they exposed the children to broader perspectives, and it wasn't just so narrow. And, you know, yeah, there's things like math and things like that that are definitely more narrow, but the other subjects, it was actually really cool. Science, history, civics, like they would learn about civics and they would have these roundtable debates. And boy, let me tell you, my kid comes from a family, my husband and I are anarchists. Fun conversations, right? And I tell my kids all the time, you speak from your being. Like, do not ever get wrangled into, you know, staying silent, and don't let people bully you into being silent. You know, you speak up. So my son would, you know, speak up, and he would, you know, bring up things, and it was all allowed. It was all allowed, and they weren't penalized because they didn't go with the flow, which is great, right? That's the kind of world we need to live in. It wasn't just pure memorization like a monkey. It was great, fantastic. So needless to say, my mom gives me this book and I read it, and I wasn't thriving. My daughter was okay. It's not like she was unhealthy, but she wasn't thriving the way I thought she should be. And thank goodness I breastfed her for almost 2 years, because that was her saving grace. okay, because I was a vegan at this point, and I had been a vegan for 13 years at this point. And I read the chapter on raw milk, and I read the chapter on the meat, and literally that next morning, I started looking up places, and I went out and I bought some farm fresh meat, and I bought some raw milk, and we came home after buying the milk. We both had a cup of raw milk, and I'm not lying one bit. I literally felt like I got lit up. I can't explain it. I literally just felt this poof. And I'm like, what the hell? And I had a good cup of it, like a good sized cup of it. And my body just received it in a way that I really did not expect. And my daughter drank it, and she ended up having like 2, 3, 4 glasses that day. And now look at her, like she likes milk, but she's not like a milk craver. She doesn't crave it. She doesn't whatever, but she like could not get enough of it. And again, she was breastfed. She was breastfed until she was almost 2. I think she was like 22 months or something. And yeah, my son was raised on raw milk and meat, lots of meat. And then I started implementing a lot more meat into our diet. We were still eating a lot of vegetables and a lot of whole grains and all of that, but I did start adding in the raw milk and meat. Then I went on to be like an omnivore, a Weston Price style omnivore for about 15 years. And I was not eating junk, no standard American diet, hadn't done that since college, okay? And I still wasn't thriving. And it was when I went carnivore that within 2 to 3 months, my life started to just improve dramatically in every way imaginable. And it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain because a lot of people are like, well, you know, it's like you could say it's a coincidence, but every facet of my life got better. My physical health, my emotional health, even though I didn't have like mental illness or anything, I had no problems, but everything about me was enhanced. Absolutely everything. The way that I felt day to day was exponentially different. I felt like something came into me. I felt like the other half of me that was missing came into me, and it was just insane. And it was pretty powerful. And my son at the time was like, I don't know how old he was, like maybe 9 or 10 at the time, somewhere around there. Did the carnivore with me because my husband was traveling a lot at the time, and it was just easy, convenient. He didn't complain, so he was just eating carnivore with me. And he actually would come up to me and be like, Mommy, I kind of feel different. And I'd be like, well, what do you mean? And he'd be like, I don't know. Like, I feel really good. Like, I just feel kind of different. I'm like, well, did you not feel good before? He goes, no, I felt good. He goes, I can't explain it, right? And it was exactly what I was feeling. It's like, it's not that I was like dying by any means, but I did have a lot of stuff. My nose ran all the time. I had severe histamine issues. I had this like multiple chemical sensitivity thing going on, basically like MCAS. Like I was reacting to like everything. And it was crazy. So my life was really, really crazy. And I had Lyme disease, and it just all sorts of things. And then all of a sudden I'm feeling fucking amazing. I'm feeling amazing. I used to feel hungover in the morning. I always felt like I was mildly intoxicated in the morning and kind of drunk and hungover, and all of this went away. And I was like, wow. And the longer I did it, the better and better I felt. And now again, I'm almost 10 years in. I think I'm like 9 years. I kind of lost track of time. And unfortunately, I didn't mark it down on the calendar, so I'm having to go by memory. But I know roughly the time because I remember the things that were happening in our life. And it was about 9 or 10 years ago. So that's where I'm at with it. And I've done this like within the carnivore. Like I've stayed pretty much carnivore, hyper carnivore anyway. But I haven't been rigid. I've definitely done the dance a little bit, and I do consume raw milk and some cream, and there's times that I would have more and sometimes that I would have less. So my ketosis window would definitely not be consistent. I wouldn't like always be super, super low carb. Sometimes I would be higher carb, but I've always been like relatively low carb compared to most people. there were some days, you know, when I first went carnivore, there was some days I was drinking 6 glasses of milk a day. Like I was drinking a lot of milk, especially in the summer when I'm just not hungry and don't feel like eating. And again, I don't, you know, don't want to lose weight, and I don't want to undereat. So I would drink a lot of raw milk in the summertime, especially. And then I would play with it. I would lower my milk and I would up my food, but I just had a hard time putting that much food into my stomach. There's just, again, I was told at 15 I would need an esophagus replacement. I've never had a good stomach. It's always been fucked up. But being carnivore and ketovore, my stomach doesn't bother me at all. I don't get reflux. Like, again, I'm not saying my thing is healed. I'm not saying that at all. And I may even have a little bit of silent reflux. I don't really know. Like, I don't really know. I could have a little bit of it still. You know, I try to be mindful. I don't raise the foot of my bed though, because I have a vascular disorder. So I can't raise the top of my bed because I have to make sure that my blood's able to flow up. So it's a little bit tricky, and I just make sure that, you know, I eat my 1 meal a day. It's during the day. I don't eat late at night so that I don't have anything to be able to backwash up into my esophagus and up into my throat. So all I know now is that I have no problems right now. I cannot swallow banana. Again, I haven't eaten a banana in over 10 years, but I was having extreme difficulty swallowing a banana because, again, I have a destroyed esophagus. And I'm trying to think, what did I have not that long ago that I had a little difficulty swallowing it? Sometimes I have a little difficulty swallowing pork rinds. So when I chew pork rinds and swallow it, it doesn't like to go down good sometimes. And there might have been something else that I made. I think I made like an egg pudding. Was it an egg pudding? No, I don't know. I made something and I remember it just wasn't going down as good as I thought. But when I eat solid food, it's perfectly fine. Drinking milk, cream, perfectly fine. I eat all kinds of meat, all kinds of seafood. I have no problems whatsoever. It's only those super soft or fluffy things that I have more difficulty getting down. But I've had that like forever, like absolutely forever. And I just don't eat those things anymore. I only eat things that go down really, really easily, which is great because I'm carnivore anyway. And my body does great with meat and dairy. And again, I don't care what people do. You don't want to do dairy, don't do dairy. If you believe the whole dairy crap, don't eat it. Like, it's totally fine. But I'm not convinced. My body thrives on it. It always has. And I've watched my children thrive on it. So I love it and I utilize it. So one of the things that I want to share with you is that when I was going through all of my stuff before I went carnivore, I didn't know they were oxalates, but I literally had these crystals coming out my nose. I thought it was glass. I literally had these sharp crystals coming out my nose. I had them coming out the rims of my eyes. I could feel them in my ears here, like right in through here. And I felt like I was being stabbed all the time. Every time I went for a walk, I felt like I was being stabbed by needles. So now that I know I was having oxalate problems, I would also feel these little sharp needle things under my skin, and they would itch and burn and itch and burn, and they would drive me fucking crazy. And I would get them in my palms. I would get them on my feet. I would get them on the back of my hands. I had them on other parts of my body too, and it was really annoying. I was having a lot of nerve problems, and yeah, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. And then I went carnivore. I was drinking a ton of milk, and I never had any massive dumping symptoms, thank goodness, because, well, actually, I did have some massive symptoms, but it was before I went carnivore, and I did end up in the ER twice. Well, I ended up in the clinic twice, and the ER once. And that was when I was going through like major breakdown, major systemic breakdown. But since I've gone carnivore, I have not had any massive dumping, which is really, really good. But one of the hangovers, one of the things that still stuck with me is that as I was going through all of those problems, I started noticing that when I would sweat, my skin would sting and burn. I don't get a rash. It just stings and burns and itches. And it just feels like I have acid on my skin. And I'm like, well, this is interesting, because I was going through all of that stuff at the time. And then going carnivore, there was a period of time where it felt like it was a little bit worse. I wouldn't say significantly, but definitely a little bit worse. And then I started noticing that it wasn't quite as bad. My phone's ringing. Anyway, it still stings and burns a little bit when I sweat, but it doesn't feel like I'm getting acid poured on me. So it's definitely improving. And again, it's been almost 10 years. So yes, everybody loves the idea of a miracle cure. You know, we're going to do something, we're going to feel better, we're going to be cured, we're going to be healed, we're going to be put into complete remission. But it doesn't go that way for everybody. Some people have a labyrinth, right? It's a different process. It's a different healing path. And we all have to, recognize that we can't compare to other people. We have to trust our own journey, and we have to keep moving forward. And it's not easy because we don't always know the right thing. We don't always know that if what we're doing is truly helping us. If you get a symptom, is it really helping or is it hurting you? Is this a healing? Is it a clearing? Is it your body readjusting? Is it your body throwing stuff off? Or is this detrimental to you? It is not always easy to know. And this is why it is so, so challenging. And I get it. I totally get it. Okay, I get it. And we can do things too that help us to feel better, but it's not actually addressing the root cause, not getting at the root core. It's one of my biggest beefs with the sunlight community. Okay, none of that stuff is getting at the root core, other than the circadian stuff. Okay, the circadian stuff, that is legit. That is legit. We need diffused sunlight to regulate our circadian rhythm and, melatonin and, all of that stuff. But that doesn't require direct sunlight, okay? It doesn't require getting a tan, okay? None of those things, okay? And all of those things, any benefit, any perceived benefit that you get is not a healing response. It is not the body healing itself. It's manipulation. It's because of a reaction that your body is having to defend itself from the solar rays, and you might get some perceived perks. But it's not healing because those, quote, perks are happening to even people who don't need it. Okay, so like the whole lowering blood pressure, sunlight lowers blood pressure. Well, what happens if you have low blood pressure already? It could be really bad for you. That's not healing response. That's just an effect. And if you happen to have really high blood pressure, then yeah, it happens to be a perk for you. But if it's not, then it's detrimental for you. And it's the same thing with, moving, lowering insulin. It's because it is a protective mechanism for your body, because your body's going into massive healing. So it's mobilizing all of the glucose, and it's, boom, getting it to heal your cells. So it's not a healing response from your body. It's healing response from the threat. So we have to think about these things and not get bamboozled and caught up in these things. Okay, it's building blocks that builds, heals, and repairs our cells. And we need those building blocks from food, from nutrition. Okay, I don't believe the sun is nutrition, other than some minor, then it's not minor benefit. I just meant minor out of the 100% that they try to I don't really think let's say 90%. They basically say the benefits outweigh the risk, right? And all depends what we're talking about here. I think there's a minor amount of things that we really, really need. And the rest is completely, again, not given the whole truth and nothing but the truth. All right, so we have to be super careful, super cautious. And I don't believe that it's nutrients when it comes to vitamin D and the other things that it's doing in the body, simply because it is a defense mechanism. It is to protect your cells from the solar radiation, because it literally can damage your blood and your cells in your body. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. We do need visible light, of course. We need infrared light, those things, again, the circadian rhythm and, eye health and all of that. But direct intense sunlight, we need to think long and hard about that. So I just wanted to share, all right? I think I'll stop now. I'm at almost 25 minutes, so I guess I'll be signing out.